The time is 6 p.m. I call the meeting to order. Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Town of Leland's Economic Development Committee meeting. Please note that these proceedings, including the public comment portion, are being videotaped. The public and media also may videotape these proceedings at any time. At this time, I would like to remind everyone to place their cell phones on vibrate or turn them off so we do not disturb the business of tonight's meeting. If we could all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're going to move to approval of the agenda. Does anyone have any amendments to the agenda?
I have new business to discuss.
Did you say new business to discuss?
I think. I just had new business. I wanted to make an announcement about the Coastal Entrepreneur Award, so I wasn't sure where to do that in here.
You could do it under old or new business if you like.
Okay, I'll do that under new business.
Okay, so we're going to make an amendment under old and new business and add 8.5, the CIE awards. Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes as amended?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item number 4.1, the April 9th, 2025 meeting minutes. Does anyone have any amendments to the meeting minutes? I'll give you a moment to take a look at those. If not, can someone make a motion to approve the minutes as presented?
So moved. Oh, go ahead.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We move to the public comment portion of this evening. At this time, anyone who signed up to speak during public comment prior to the start of this meeting may come forward after your name is called. After all registered speakers have finished, anyone who did not sign up but wishes to provide public comment will have an opportunity to speak when you're called. Please come to the podium. If you have any documents to present to the board, please give them to the police officer or the town clerk. This is a 3-minute time limit for public comments. You will notice the countdown clock to the right of dais. Individuals may only speak once in a public comment period. As a reminder, the board will not answer or make comments or on anything said during your statement. Please be assured that everyone is listening to your comments. We ask that the public to be courteous while the speaker is addressing the board. After everyone who has signed up who has spoken, the board chair will ask if there are others who wish to speak and ask them to come up to the podium one at a time to provide their public comment. Is there anyone that has signed up for public comment this evening?
No, sir.
Great, thank you. Item number 6, the presentation. Mr. Sutton will now introduce our presenters for the evening.
Good evening, committee members. I'd like to quickly introduce our presenters tonight representing Canvasback. So we have Mr. David Nelson and Trey Echols. Starting with Mr. Nelson, he leads real estate investment and development initiatives at Canvasback Capital. His work spans multiple asset classes, including multifamily, single-family, PUDs, mini storage, light industrial, and land management. Prior to founding Canvasback, David spent nearly a decade at Crown Partners, a privately held real estate development, construction, and property management firm specializing in Class A multifamily housing across the Southeast. At Crown, he played a key role in sourcing and executing new developments, overseeing construction, managing assets, and working with capital partners. David holds an MBA from the University of Michigan's Ross School of Business and a BE cum laude in mechanical engineering from Vanderbilt University. He serves on boards in Temple and Birmingham Jewish Federation and remains active in the community and industry organizations. Thank you, David. And Mr. Echols oversees capital strategy, partnership opportunities, and business operations at Canvasback. His career spans financial services, real estate, finance, and institutional investment consulting, including experience in construction lending, mini-perm, permanent, and CMBS origination. Prior to co-founding Canvasback, Trey served as the president and CEO of Highland Associates, where he led the firm through a founder transition and a successful sale of Regions Bank in 2019. Under his leadership, Highland grew to $36 billion in assets under management. He also held leadership roles in Deloitte Corporate Finance and spent 12 years at Merrill Lynch, where he led private client banking in the Midwest. Trey currently serves on the boards of Birmingham Museum of Art, Jones Valley Teaching Farm, and the advisory board of the Salvation Army Birmingham. He is a member of the YPO and a graduate of Leadership Birmingham and Leadership Alabama. So with that, I'll turn it over to Canvasback.
Well, thank you, Barnes, and thank you, team, for having us here. This has been something we've been very excited for, and particularly excited about our project here in Leland, so we want to spend some time with you this evening talking about it. Given the microphone situation, we're going to kind of move in and out, if that's okay. So we're kind of sharing parts of this, so bear with us as we shuffle the deck here. So we really broke the conversation down tonight. We've got 6 areas that we wanted to cover. The first is why we're here, what drew us here in the first place. Talk a little bit about Small Bay. There's a lot of buzz around it right now, but we want to demystify the product for you, tell you what you're getting here in your community. The demand for it. We'll preface the product itself with the demand. And then talk about the park itself, the Innovation Park, what's going to happen in there with what we're doing, and then the economic impact, and then how we can work together going forward. So, let's start in. So why Leland? The numbers, you all know the numbers here, and, we have, a number of sources, and as we go through the presentation, and I just will preface it, we pull from a variety of data sources. One of them is CoStar, which is the real estate sort of gold standard for data, if you will. And the MSA that the town sits in spans all the way down to Myrtle Beach. And so delineating between the town, the county, and the MSA, you'll see some of these numbers. Feel free, if one of these numbers looks bigger or smaller than it should be, we're happy to try to distill it down the best we can. But what's going on in North Carolina right now is over the broader state is the work that's been done over a decade and a half at the state level that has obviously found its way to the coast here from Wilmington all the way into Leland. And in the county itself, the growth of population, this is the fastest growing county in the state, and then one of the fastest in the country. And just the town itself, to go from 22,000 residents to 33,000, so that's what, a 50% increase in just 4 years is remarkable. This speaks to the growth. And then the county numbers are just as impressive over a span of 20 years. So, but the fun part is David found, had been studying Wilmington and Leland and Brunswick County all together. I thought it made sense to hear from the horse's mouth himself. So I'll let David take it from here and talk about it.
Thank you again for having us here tonight. If y'all have any questions, please feel free to interrupt the presentation. We're happy to take questions, and I think that stop us if y'all have a question. But I started looking about 2.5 years ago, and as Barnes said, my background was in multifamily. So when I start doing due diligence on a new location, I go look for single family starts, for multifamily starts, to see where people are wanting to move. We always look at U-Haul and United Van Lines. They publish a annual report telling what the fastest growing markets are in the country, in certain counties, and it's just really interesting to see where people are wanting to be. And the Wilmington, Brunswick County was one of those places. I've still got a bunch of friends in the multifamily industry, and I started talking to people and saying, where y'all building? Where are you looking? One of the friends said, we're building in Leland and in Brunswick County, and I said, well, really, tell me about it. And so I found out from him, what they were doing, and asked a couple other multifamily guys, where y'all, have y'all heard of, y'all seeing anything about Wilmington or Brunswick County? And they were all like, oh, we'd love to be there. We were looking for sites there, a couple months ago. So I sort of found there's got to be something going on here, and so we dug in, started looking for sites with our friends at Cape Fear. Came upon the Leland Industrial Innovation Park, and tried to put together the numbers to make something work. The number of units that are coming online when we were looking 2 years ago were impressive, and ever since we've been doing, starting our construction drawings, doing more due diligence, the numbers just continue to grow. I mean, Barnes was telling us something right before the meeting about, a piece of property that's been annexed by the city, right in front of, right off 74. And, it's just a great, another opportunity, and makes, our property, even more valuable, and will attract more people. So we're super excited about that. No, I mean, y'all know the numbers about where we are, about the number of homes planned here. We're super excited, because of the economic drivers that are here in the general area. And Trey's going to talk a little bit about, what really got us here and what keeps us interested here.
Absolutely. So we talk about what's going on specifically to this area from an industrial standpoint. Now, in my background, I've always worked with small and mid-sized businesses. I've financed them, advised them. Ran one, owned one, and so I've always been drawn to that entrepreneurial spirit. And so one of the reasons I love this on a personal basis is that the people going into these spaces that we're building are the people that I know. And I think they are going to gird the economy, the new economy, as we move forward, as we reshore and bring jobs over in town. And so, when you see an asset class like that hasn't really been updated in 20 years, and not only that, in terms of updated, meaning building or expanding inventory, but actually reformatting it to meet the needs of these businesses. So we wanted to showcase a couple of industries that are feeders off of what's going on locally in the region here, to show you an example of how they will surface in these parks. So if you think about the big industrial corridor, and that's where and this is just a snapshot, and as you can drive around, you've got 2 parks here in town, and we'll talk about some distinctions, but just the variety of tenants that go in it, but just feeding off the industrial end markets themselves. So you've got high tech, you've got health, you've got, you've got your higher education campuses here, and you've got the U.S. government military. And so as those areas receive more investment, more infrastructure need, the service companies and suppliers that are built around them have to have a home. And they're not looking for 50,000, 100,000 foot big bombers, as we call them, big warehouses. They need spaces where they can break inventory down, assemble, repair, perhaps do some light manufacturing. Most importantly, have a place to launch out of to go service on campus where these are. So you talk about nuclear and aerospace, the precision machine shops that surface, they're coming in, and some of them are highly specialized and highly focused, and they're looking for smaller spaces. The testing business, it spans more than just the high tech and energy. I mean, there's like with the grid that's undergoing infrastructure rebuilds all over the country, there's a specialization just in electrical testing that is in high demand right now. And as engineers and skilled workers come online, they house themselves in small bay. The instrumentation, which is a feeder off of that, is obviously a big part of this array of businesses that go in it, and calibration, very important in energy and manufacturing. If you want to move down into the innovation and incubator support, a lot of what these campuses are doing, particularly UNC Wilmington and the Coastal Community College there in Wilmington, are producing entrepreneurs. Every one of these colleges are producing entrepreneurs that come out. These kids are ready. I'm sure you've had experiences watching them with technology and artificial intelligence right now. A 22-year-old can start a business dramatically faster than someone we all probably grew up with in industry. And so the campuses are actually, graduating them into the economy, and they need spaces. They don't need huge offices, and they don't need huge retail spaces. They need flexible space where they can put whatever they're doing inside of it. And that's where Small Bay comes to play. And then we'll talk about healthcare, and as healthcare grows, and defense, the equipment repair and services. That may sound pretty amorphous, but as you talk about specific end markets and specific uses, just take healthcare, for example. Surgical equipment has to be sanitized and repaired according to the specifications of the FDA. And so those schedules are mandated to hospitals. And as they grow and add beds, add rooms, add ambulatory centers, the demand for that service is huge. They're doing these out of small bay. Defense contractor logistics supports, hot shot deliveries, breaking down larger cargo and then distributing where they need to be in the region is very important. And then, of course, healthcare supplies is another example. So this is just a cross section. I could go on and on about this. And the beauty of it for towns like Leland that are getting a product like this is now all of a sudden you become a focal point for them to relocate. Even if they're serving customers over Cape Fear River, they can come over here, get in a space that is very economical to occupy, customize it the way they want to customize it, be close probably to where most of their workers are living, and then have a good quality of life at a very affordable rate, as I mentioned. Then we talk about the big story that's here in the town, which is the residential side. And, for every 1,000 homes that's built, there's estimated 250 to 350 business service jobs that require flexible space. And you think about just electrical contractors, plumbers, and the whole 9 yards. They want to be near these homes. And again, the same is true with their employees. They want to be working near where they live. And it's one of the big problems that with big markets have. Take Charlotte, for example. The whole small bay area down, if you know Charlotte, the south end, they blew out all the small, it was a big small bay light industrial section that's now has apartment complexes in them. And now they're having to send their employees to Gastonia to the office or way down into South Carolina. So, we're fortunate here to have this space to be able to bring them in. But just everything from recreation to logistics, breaking down the third-party logistics, cross-docking. So, the big distribution centers, the hub and spoke model that they had that utilized a vast retail orientation to get product to the end market. People now, since COVID, that has accelerated the business directly to your door delivery, now need to be closer to their customer base, and that's what you're seeing. The fitness and recreation, I'm sure if you've been in and around Little League sports, travel baseball, travel basketball, lacrosse, every sport known, there's generally been, and it's a pretty big cottage industry out there. They're training these kids in small bay warehouses. You probably already have a few as it is. We actually have an anecdote from one of our brokers who said a guy that's got a golf simulator and training facility. He's wanted to be in a commercial space, a retail space, and it's about twice what it'll cost him to be where we are. And he can build it out exactly like he wants to do it. And the beauty is he can be next door to the surgical repair equipment repair person. I could go on about the specifics, but one of the things that I think is driving the environment for this too is that this next generation of entrepreneurs, a lot of them have worked in co-located spaces. So it's either incubators where you have an array of businesses that were unrelated operating under one roof. So they find this comfort in collaborating with unrelated businesses. They share ideas. Who should I use for insurance, banking, legal, and they collaborate on ideas to find efficiencies. The same as the co-officing, like the WeWork type space. That kind of culture has led a lot of businesses that have grown and matured to find a small bay. They find comfort being with an area of businesses that are not just like theirs. So, David, you want to cover the small bay product there?
So I've been managing a small bay facility in Florida for about 20 years. We have a niche down there that it's a mixture of showrooms and professional office. So we've got the guy who's selling you the plumbing fixtures, and then we've got the guy who's doing the plumbing itself. And so like one's in the front and one's in the back. We've got light fixtures. We've got the guy doing the quarterback coaching that Trey was talking about. We've got a little bit of everything, and it's a good mix of businesses, because if the economy is slows down in one part, it usually doesn't slow down in another part. And so it's been a great business. And so over the last 20 years, I've waited for another opportunity to build the same facility that we have in Florida, somewhere else. Rents were pretty flat, construction costs were going up, and the numbers just didn't make sense. Somewhere around coming out of COVID, 22, 23, we saw our rents start to rise pretty steadily in Florida. And I started looking at other places, and that trend stayed, across multiple cities, multiple MSAs. And I was like, we got to find, a spot. And that's, when we came to Wilmington. But small bay means a whole bunch of different things to different people. We were at a conference 3 weeks ago in Atlanta. There were 600 people there. If you were trying to go there and figure out what small bay was, your head would be spinning. To some people, it's a 750-foot, warehouse that's, a little bit of a glorified self-storage. For some, it's 20,000 feet. And, it's everything in between. To us, our units are going to be 5,000-foot units. They're going to have 20-foot clear height in the building. So, essentially you can go up 20 to 20 feet, and part of the building will be slightly taller than that based on the slope. And, we've seen everything from, distilleries and breweries to indoor pickleball clubs, but, a little bit of everything. And we think that's important, and it gives small businesses a home. As Trey said, the golf guy would go from $36 a square foot to about $16 a square foot. So that's a big difference, and that's all coming out of his pocket. And, if he doesn't have to attract, the drive-by traffic, I mean, people are coming to him for a specific reason. They're coming because he's the guy who's fitting the clubs right. I don't play golf, so I'm sort of talking. It's not as easy for me to talk about the golf, but for people who have a specific business that don't require the commercial frontage, it's a great home. The prices are substantially lower than retail, and the opportunity for them to build out something that's specific to them, is great. And we're doing a little bit of TI. We're going to have some units that are going to be ready to go day one. So a lot of these smaller businesses are thinking day to day, week to week. Whereas on a large warehouse, somebody comes regionally, hires a broker, says, I want to find a spot. And it's, probably a 3 or 6 month process by the time they get, their chosen spot and get their permits and get in the space. The small business owner's thinking like, hey, it's the 29th of the month. I need to be out of my current space in 2 days. Where can I move into? So we want to have an opportunity for them to come, move in, have some sort of a generic layout that'll be great for them to get started. If they want to build out something specific, have some specific electrical needs, we can certainly, permit that and get that done, in a timely manner. But, we want to be ready for them. We think 5,000 is the right size. As you get into the smaller, 500 to 750 foot units, some of those guys, are just starting out in the business, and they may or may not make it. We have a friend who's in the business. They're leasing 750 foot units. He was talking to a group of guys who wanted to do car detailing. They work at Amazon during the day, and they were wanting to do the car detailing, after hours and on the weekend. And he had to explain to them, well, to pay me rent every month, you've got to do 3 cars a day at this rate, and that just covers your rent. That doesn't cover anything for you guys. So he was, we say he was doing the venture capital, of small bay, because he was having to really explain to them their business. So we're thinking it with the 5,000 foot units, we're going to capture more of the guys who are established. We want to catch the guys who are growing out of that, 1,000 foot space and into the 5,000 foot space. And, we will do multiple spaces. Somebody could come along and take 10 to 15,000. As you get to a 20,000 foot unit, people are usually looking for dock high doors, and more of a, facility that will take semi trucks. We can do that. Our doors are going to be ground level, so mostly delivery by van and box truck. But we will have a shared dock. But as you get to the 20,000 foot user, they're usually looking for something specific, and they're probably going to go to the bigger building, that has the 100 and 200,000 foot spaces. So I think that's sort of what we wanted to cover with y'all on small bay. and it's been a business that hasn't been really built since the 80s and 90s. It was fairly prolific growth back then, but because of the rents and the construction costs that I talked about, there hasn't been lately. And as Trey said, in Charlotte, there's been, higher and better uses have come along and torn down these facilities. Or, in Brunswick County's case, there, since y'all are continuing to grow, we're trying to put these small bays in the path of progress. And so that's sort of what has led us, to you guys. These are, some stats that so as Trey said, we use CoStar. It sort of gives us market data on, areas that we're looking at. This is, while the title says Leland market, it's really the Brunswick, MSA as we look at it. And it does include everything from Leland, I think, all the way down to Myrtle Beach. It talks about the total, number of square foot, which is not, is I guess an average size, but the most important part for us is it's 97% occupied. There's nothing, for people to go, as more homes, more people come to North Carolina, we've got to find a space for small business. And we think it's flex. And so that's sort of what we're, why we're here and why we're building. Rents are continuing to go up a little bit, which, since we've already closed on our land, makes us happy. And we think that it's a good opportunity for folks at that price point versus, the retail or the commercial office.
One important note to make about the vacancy stat, having zero or having a very high occupancy number isn't completely healthy, because what happens is the seekers of this space go look other places. If you look over really in Wilmington, there's even a lot of the stock that they have there is pretty dated. And so when we are able to deliver this, now all of a sudden you've got a new story to draw businesses that may want to be over by the airport or just south of the airport. You're going to have this space here, and we're going to be able to give some more flexibility there and have people saying, hey, they got something new up in Leland. Let's head up there and try to locate in one of those small bays there. So I just wanted to make that point there. So the Innovation Park, we've got 142,000 feet. So we've got the site we've got is at the very end of the park, and it's 31 acres. It was already delineated. About half of it was wetland, so we have 17 and a half acres to do. If you've driven by or seen the site at the end in there, we've just about, I think about 90% of the site has been graded. We have the first pad poured for the first building. We are about to, we're a week or two away from erecting the concrete tilt-up wall, so you'll start seeing a structure, which we're excited about, and our brokers are excited about. They'll show people things that are tangible there. There'll be 71 units at 5,000 foot. And the way we build our product is it's 100 feet deep, and they're 50-foot columns. So it gives us the opportunity to demise up to 15,000 feet. And we think that's where the market starts to change a lot. So we're really looking at that 15,000 foot user or below. But we are by default trying to lease out as many as possible. We think a more diverse tenant base for you there is better for the town, and it's good for us because it diversifies the tenants as well and can give us some occupancy as the life cycle of the building itself matures. So one of the things David has brilliantly incorporated in underwriting is looking at the sea level. Obviously, that you've got some lowlands around here at 41 feet above sea level. We exceed the 100-year flood mark, so that's a good risk measure for us, and it enables us to save some costs there. David mentioned the height earlier. So we have 142,000 feet. We do have space to add another structure on there. We want to see how we can do with 142,000 feet. We think we're going to do well. We wouldn't have done it if we didn't. And it's good to know that we've got flexibility. We are bullish on the Innovation Park. The location by the exit on I-140 is very attractive. We've seen other distributors like Anheuser-Busch and Coca-Cola locate there. We also like the proximity to the residential, which we talked about earlier. So you all have a real nice gem of a space there that has a lot of opportunity to grow and bring other tenants and occupants in that park. So we couldn't be more excited. And we hope that the Canvasback site, and these are some elevation shots, will help you attract. It's good for us for you to attract other occupants of the park. So these are just some pictures, and we can roll through, and you can see this is an upgrade from the traditional small bay product. If you think about what people think about small bay, it's metal buildings. They've been around. They've actually owned the park. Those structures, those prefab metal buildings, are what typically have been the small bay office warehouse product. What you'll notice about this is you get a retail-ish feel to it. So when you had just contractors occupying a Butler building or metal building with a roll-up front load door, you didn't have customers coming on site. And as we mentioned in our examples, there are tenants that are going to have customers come on site. And so, this will, have more parking for them. It'll have a nice finish. It's an inviting space for customers, and the tenants can engage them at the front of the building. The back of the building is where they can do manufacturing distribution. And the beauty of the way this park is designed is if you are more customer facing, if you're training the youth in football, you can be next door to the HVAC service center, the alarm company that's got the service trucks, and not feel like you're in the way or they're in the way. We've kind of been colloquially called this the mullet flex. So it's business in the front, party in the back. So that's when we kind of try to explain it. We're from Alabama, so we can kind of relate, but people kind of get it in that regard. So these are some really nice finish. This will be a really nice finish. It'll be a really good looking piece of the innovation park at the end there. I think your other occupants of properties on that will enjoy having that back there too. So good landscaping, good turn radiuses, as you can see. I think we've got a nice design here. So let's talk about the economic impact. And again, these are directional numbers, especially when you talk about jobs created. So the rule of thumb for these spaces is 2 new jobs for every tenant in there. So if you take 71 tenants and multiply that by 2, that's the math we're using. I actually think this is a pretty low number. I mean, just take let's take a pest control that's got 10 service trucks serving the area. Those are 10 employees. They don't really work in there all the time. They're coming to get their supplies and their dispatch. But just on those numbers that we've published up there, it's roughly 5.7 million of payroll there. And the beauty about what's going on in the town right now is that you've got affordable housing and you've got a variety of housing stock. So it's going to attract the employees that say, hey, I'm near my place of work. It's a huge component of our underwriting analysis. We want to be near the residences. And especially if we can produce 5.5 million of payroll increase and impact, that only lifts the vitality of the community as well. The annual property tax, that really delineates down to about $80,000 in city revenue. We were using our millage rates and combine the county and the city, but we delineate that around the 80. That's a directional number there as well. So just wanted to make that point. And then the local spending, the impact, 8.5 million is a rough estimate based on the square footage we're going to put to work for you. Again, we think that's a very conservative number of what gets folded back into the economy there. And then, of course, we're hiring 200 plus people are out there every day working on one phase of the project or another. So you want to talk about you want to cover I will make the distinction here. I mean, this is a macro distinction. When we had COVID and we had the e-commerce, growth, the large box industrial all the way from here straight down to Jacksonville blew up. I mean, there's large 100,000 foot plus spaces all up and down the coast, and they're seeing some vitality there. But the beauty of having a small bay complex like ours versus one big box is pretty significant. You talk about an Amazon that comes in. It's a great name, and it's going to put a lot of people to work, but that rent check is going out of town. And those employees are working for Amazon. Whereas when you have 20 plus local businesses to support the community, we think that's a nice diversification for your economic base and actually add some more vitality and energy there. More jobs created, profits stay in your community. These business owners are living here, and so they're keeping the money here there. We also think that the economic risk, because we're diversifying the tenant base, you've seen big corporates that are just throwing capital expenditures out to expand a distribution channel. If they have a hiccup and decide they want to just close the plant, they might still pay rent to some, investment fund, but it's not cycling through Leland. But these jobs and the diversification of it will stay right here. So just wanted to make those points there. You've seen the data, and I won't belabor all of them, but those are the highlights that we've been talking about in the communities that we want to be in. So, David, I'm going to let you handle the experience you've had.
Yeah, so, when Barnes and I have talked, several times about the process, along the way, we're at, we started this, we submitted for our first permit July of 25. We've run into, a few things with Brunswick County and their water, and we're still sort of waiting for our water permit. So it's been a little frustrating, but, everybody's been nice. I think it's just, with the county's issue with their sewer, it pulled all the people in one direction to solve that problem, and, they didn't have the staff to maintain that. We have seen this work well where, the portal system encourages everybody to comment at one time. So we submit our plans, it goes through a planning review, but it also goes to engineering, to the water department, to the fire department, so that everybody's sort of clued in on this one development. And everybody gets their comments addressed. And so you have, if we submit it to planning, but they want to change something and don't involve fire, then you sort of lose that. We lose time because they send it back to us, we change it, and then it goes to fire. We sort of lose the camaraderie of the town to sort of, hey, let's work out this problem and get this project moving. One of the challenges is that I think, y'all should see how you can address, and I know with the town and the county, it's not always the easiest thing, but from our perspective as a developer and getting more people in the park, it's like, how can you, get everybody talking together in one room early on and get some of those issues, worked out, so it doesn't have to go back and forth and back and forth. We moved a manhole from one side of the driveway to the other side of the driveway back to the first side of the driveway. There's just, and y'all are not the only ones out there, but y'all got a great group of folks. They're really nice people. I think it's some growing pains, and, I think y'all, can get there, fairly easily. You got the portal system already in place. It's just sort of involving everybody and reworking the process a little bit. Everybody sort of tried to work with us with the county water issue, and we're really appreciative of that. But I think there's things that we met Troy this morning or this afternoon. Had a great conversation with him, about some of what other communities are doing, or municipalities, communities, counties, sort of everybody to attract more business, and doing some partnerships where you by increasing taxes you get some property tax incentive to reduce for us to bring more tenants or bring a bigger tenant. But there's lots of opportunities out there, and I think y'all got a great hire in Torrey, because he's been there and done it with other places. What can you guys do for us? Tell your friends that we're coming. If you know of businesses that are looking for spot, make sure they call Will and Keith at Cape Fear. We're excited about being here, and we think there's a great opportunity for us and for the community. We're excited.
Thank you. Well, team, I know we belabored a lot of slides, and I'm sure you've got questions, and we would entertain all of your questions. We'd love to talk about anything that is on your mind that you've seen that you've got questions about. So I'll yield the floor to you.
Hi.
Hi.
My name's Heather McCoyter. I work for UNCW Center for Innovation Entrepreneurship. I work for entrepreneurs for a living.
Excellent.
So I love that you were talking a lot about entrepreneurs, and I could see this being really well received. I just had 3 little points that I wanted to bring or to comment on. First, whenever you're talking about the opportunity, I would also throw in faculty startups. There's been a lot of investment from a statewide organization, NC Innovation, in our startups that are moving faculty towards commercialization, 7-figure investments, and so they're going to need space in our communities. So I wouldn't discount that. Second, as you roll this out, I welcome it. This is your invitation to come talk to a coalition of providers of small business and entrepreneurial resource providers. It's called the Coalition. Terrible name, but that's what it's called. We get together monthly. It includes Brunswick Community College, Cape Fear Community College, UNCW, YWCA, CDFIs, it just goes down the list, SBTDC, etc. They'll be very interested in this. They help thousands of businesses in our region, and that would be an efficient use of your time to help spread the word. And then thank you for sharing your frustrations with growing pain and the growing pains of our community. I work for the state, so I don't know that I have a solution. I'm sitting here right next to an AI business, and so, I think about technology right away. But it was great to hear your voice in that, and I would love to explore options to solve that.
Well, thank you, Mrs. McCorder. And I'll just say, one of my passion projects, I've been working with students for 15 years as an ad hoc basis. And so I would really enjoy it. I'd love to get in there and listen to everything going on from the faculty to the students. So I'll take you up on it.
Yep, absolutely.
Anything you want to?
I feel like every time I come to these meetings, I always have lots of questions on deck. I'm Katie McCallick. I work for a tech company local here to Wilmington, North Carolina, that has become extremely proficient in AI and promoting workflows through AI agents. My primary role focuses on sales support, so enablement for our new logo and upsell sales teams. And so I'm going to ask a few salesy questions, but I'll do my best to define some of the terminology for which I'll be asking. You mentioned a number of businesses in our area who could benefit from these flex bays. I'm curious how you've determined your TAM, or total accessible market, within that group, and how you've broken that down to specific types of businesses, and what that ICP or ideal customer profile is looking like for you all.
Well, the TAM, you have a...
Yeah, so I mean, I think the great thing about our product is you can have different businesses all together, and the more different sometimes the better. Like, there's a park on Plouffe Road that's got a bunch of, I think they're 5,000 or 7,000 foot buildings, and they have yards next to them. There's like a guy doing car detailing next to an HVAC company, next to a distillery or a brewery, and then you've got the fitness people that are all there together. So we're looking for more different than we are together. So like, we don't want just the plumbing and electrical contractors, and we don't want just the housing contractors. We want the housing contractors. We want some of the entrepreneurs out of the community colleges and the regular UNC, and that's, to me, what's exciting for us, when we go walk through these parks. And I mean, I've known all the owners in Jupiter, where we have our facility in Florida. We go having conversations with them. We keep in touch with them, and it's just a nice group of folks down there, and we hope to sort of have the same thing here. So we're looking more at the general market dynamics of the area and saying, hey, we think there's all these different opportunities. We're not getting way down to the specific we're not getting down to a specific type of manufacturing or a specific type of service provider. We're just saying we think that based on the growth dynamics that are going on in Brunswick County and Wilmington, that there's a ton of opportunity here. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it also actually leads me up into a follow-up question.
Okay.
With such a dynamic TAM, if you will, what is your all strategy to getting in front of them and really marketing to them when they're all located within different sub-industries and areas in areas within the greater Brunswick and New Hanover counties?
Well, that's where our strategy is we're leasing up with our brokers. And I think it's a great question because to be specific with the data, I mean, we found multipliers that are like best guess multipliers. We cited one for every 1,000 homes, you need 1,500 feet or 1,000 feet of new space. So, but we've been surprised. I keep calling it a demand vortex because I think the demand's bigger than we know. And it's a great project for possibly an AI agent to help us out with. But no, it's a great question, and I'm completely fascinated by it. And it's a project with our brokers. Now, once we fill it up, if you will, stabilize it, we will self-manage. And so there's been a number of tools on technology-wise that have drawn in small bay tenants. One of them we hear all the time across the industry is Facebook Marketplace. They get more traffic there than they get from a broker channel or a Crexy or CoStar type of aggregator. So I think it's a brilliant project because I think small business, by way of technology, as I mentioned earlier, is basically recreating this flex in market.
Thank you.
He's got a couple.
I do have one more, but I feel like I've monopolized a bit of time. With any of, granted, you're still waiting to build those initial small bays. Even digitally, have you all provided any proof of concepts to any potential tenants of any of those small bays once they are completed?
So we have, full architectural design ready, for anybody who's looking. Well, what we found is most people want to see walls, want to see our walls tilted up before they'll really entertain, hey, I see that, this is no longer just a cleared site. This is actually a building. I can go look at it. So we have, some renderings. We've done, the full set of plans that are permitted. But, really until we get our walls up, people aren't going to. There are regional people, from economic development who are, looking far out. But the tenants that we're really saying that are the 5,000-foot tenants, they want to see a building. They want to see the space. And that's sort of why, we want to be able to move fast when they, say, hey, we're interested. We want to get them in as quickly as we can. But we need walls, really, to get most people interested.
Sounds like there is strong interest there. Hopefully by several who are able to, see those walls go up and be able to, move forward and have those small bays.
Absolutely. And that's one idea. Mr. Sutton, getting in the leasing brokers. David spends a lot of time with leasing brokers, and one of my first questions is, who's calling about this? Yep. And I get a variety of answers every time. So it's a lot of anecdotes, but I know you're probably big on data, right? So I need more data. So we're in the hunt for it, and especially on the build outs.
Perfect. It's huge. We got to operate off of our data.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have one. I don't know if you can hear me. At one point in the beginning, you mentioned that these were customizable spaces, like based on the tenants that were going in there. Is that right? So that's once they've moved in, and then that will really help these different tenants within different industries really be able to make that space their own, whether it's going to be ideally customer facing. You mentioned like gym and healthcare, things like that, and that would happen post signing a lease and moving in. And it's just kind of their space to make their own.
Right.
I feel like that would really be a good selling point for a lot of them for sure.
It is. It is. That's the fun part. Like I said, I'm just as eager to see how they customize the space as anyone. It's you go up and down these parks, and it's just fascinating, and it's refreshing because you read the headlines and all you hear about are macroeconomic issues. But when you get into our town here in Leland and you see what's going on, small business that are supporting the community, this is where it's happening, and they're doing it in so many different ways. So it's absolutely fascinating.
Trey or David, just kind of piggybacking off of Ms. Smith's question, could you maybe talk about how you envision that leasing process to be, what the conversation looks like when you're going from that cold hard shell to whatever the next step is, and whether the tenant is looking for a specific feel, if there's any type of tenant improvement process with that?
Yeah, so we're going to have 8 spaces that are a warm shell, a warm vanilla shell, which essentially means that they are the office is going to have HVAC. It's going to be on. So you're starting with that. You've got lights on. You have a floor, and the back will be lit at 30-foot candles, which is essentially plenty of light to do most manufacturing or working jobs. If you were doing something like if you were doing computer assembly or something that is very small, you probably have to have more light than that. But we're sort of setting 8 units up to be ready to go, so that they're if it's a general business where they can get in and it sort of gives them a start. We can help them get beyond that, but that's sort of what we're aiming for to get started. If they're a manufacturing business, they're going to want something specific. So we'll go through the process with them, and they're also going to be the ones who are comfortable. Hey, I know this is going to take a couple months to get built out. They're going to be thinking, probably 4 or 5 months ahead of time or 6 months ahead of time, so that we can go through, design. We've got architects who are working with us constantly. They'll draw something up, show where the power's got to be for their machines. So, for the person who's looking for something specific and has more of a need for the machines, or electric needs is sort of what jumps out to me, or plumbing needs, we'll work with them to get their unit built out, but it's not going to be as quick as sort of taking one of the generic boxes. I think about the workout facility. Usually they want a couple bathrooms, padded floor, and places to hang the dumbbells or the ropes, or whatever, the hang bars, and that's relatively easy to add and permit. We may have to add a bathroom. We sort of got everything set up to have at least 2 bathrooms. One will be in the shell, and then we can add one. The plumbing's going to be in the common wall, and the drain's sort of already set up. So we're trying to think ahead and prepare for the majority of the users, but there's going to be specifics that we've got to go back and figure out with people. Does that help, Barnes?
It does, thanks.
When do you expect to get your TCO on the building? I know you said you're kind of working through the water thing now, but
Mr. Braddock, if you can
Speaking to the microphone for me.
when do you anticipate your TCO?
So we've gotten 2 tanker trucks out on the site to get the fire department comfortable that they can put out a fire. They've trained on the trucks. They've said they meet all their needs. So we have a crane showing up on a week from today. They'll set it up over the weekend, tilt panels, on Memorial Day. If that all happens as planned and we can keep going and we get the water permit sort of in the next little bit, we think mid to late September.
Okay, so soon.
Yeah. I mean, the hardest part was really the site work. The tilt wall construction goes relatively quickly, and the build outs are, we're not doing anything super complicated. And so the hardest part was, getting the site work done and getting the, tilt wall set up to go.
What will be your mechanism for the next phase at like 80% lease out, based on your lease up velocity? Is that?
So we'll start the second building when we get to 50% leased or pre-leased. We're hoping that as the walls go up, to our point earlier, that we've got to be able to show somebody the space. There's some people who can visualize what they can do in the space. There's others that we're going to have to draw it out for them and do some renderings and show them what's possible. And we're good at doing that. But we want to get the first building 50% leased before we start the second building. We already have our plans done for the second building. They're sort of ready to submit. we may go ahead and, submit them. That was one of the things that I wanted to talk to Barnes about. But we may go ahead and submit them and just sort of have it ready to go as soon as, I want to have the flexibility to move as fast or as slow as we need to. And, that was why we went ahead and had the plans done and have it ready so that if somebody wants to jump on it, great. If somebody wants to make some major changes, somebody wants to take the whole building and say, hey, we want 30-foot height or 40-foot clear, we can accommodate that. So it's sort of we want to see how the leasing does and go from there.
Great. It's exciting. It's a much needed product mix and product type here in the marketplace. So excited to have you guys here.
Thank you.
And unless there are any further questions for our presenters this evening, Mr. Barnes or Mr. Sutton?
No, I was just gonna say I can see your slides here. I see you have one more slide, I believe. I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to cover before we let you guys go.
That was right here.
No good presentations done unless you get every slide covered.
I just wanted to make sure.
No, thanks. You see this in there. I think it's the way we view what we're doing here. Both David and I have a passion for small business, and we're a small business. And for communities like yours, hardworking people that, need good spaces to grow their economy, and we feel like we're a core partner in that. And we may not be here physically, we don't sleep here all the time, but we feel like we're part of the community. And if you feel like there's anything we need to be doing or need to be aware of, we're here for you. We're here for you at any time. So I hope y'all will, and we mean that. Hope you'll reach out. So thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Item 7.1, Mr. Sutton will now provide the new development update.
Yes. Thank you all for taking the time to speak with the folks from Canvasback. You guys are welcome to stay, but you certainly don't have to. I don't know if you guys are getting on the road or not, so feel free to step out if you'd like. So there's a few items I'd like to share with you all. I had mentioned a little while ago that I would like to, on a somewhat regular basis, update you all with new developments as they're coming into the town, whether that be through the technical review process or also projects that have recently received an approval. So I did want to share with you all, these are some projects that were submitted over the past couple months. I think things got a little quiet in the holiday season, and so things ramped up in the new year. So we saw kind of an influx in February and March. And so I wanted to go ahead and get these in front of you all. These are all projects that are currently going through the technical review process. As the folks from Canvasback might have mentioned, we have essentially a permit portal in which projects are submitted, and that goes to folks that are in-house, which includes our fire department, engineering, planning, building inspections, and a few others. It also goes to external agencies, whether that be the Wilmington Metropolitan Planning Organization, DOT, and a few others that might have some comments associated with a particular project. So wanted to share these with you. Texas Roadhouse in Leland Town Center, going in at the corner of Tradeway, behind the Mavis Tire in front of the O2 Fitness. So they're still going through their commercial plan review. Chase Bank is going into the old Savannah Branch project, Villages of Leland, or Leland Village Town Center, I think is what it's called now, which will be across from Brunswick Forest. The Westgate Commercial is the metal building that you might see along Westgate Drive across from the TD Bank. So there's a metal building there next to the self-storage facility. They're putting up a 10,000 square foot metal building for retail and restaurant space. That's what that project is there. Sheets was submitted along Highway 17 across from the Tractor Supply in front of Ibis Landing. And lastly, an Early Riser Coffee Shop, which was submitted actually across the street from here, so right across the street from the library. There was a sign there next to that green residential building, if you all have seen on Village Road. That project was submitted here recently for 2 retail units, one of them being a coffee shop, the other one feature tenant. So those combine for a little over 40,000 square feet of commercial space currently going through the planning process. And then for projects that were recently approved, the Waterford commercial, this one's being handled through Cape Fear. And so this is at the intersection, the northeast intersection of Old Regent Way and Old Waterford Way. They're in front of the Cygnus Technologies building, kind of catty corner from the True. So they're putting up 2 buildings there. You can see kind of a relatively detailed site plan here, 3 units in one building. Looks like 36, 79, 10 in the other. And so this one accounting for almost 25,000 square feet. They've got several of those dedicated for retail, office, and a handful of restaurant pieces in there. The ones that have the outdoor patio space, in essence, are the restaurant locations, the rest of them being retail, office, and some institutional uses. Those are all, and this one is online now. If you were to go to LoopNet or any of your commercial listing pages of preference, you'll probably find it there. But we're excited about that project. So those are the 2 slides I wanted to share for new development updates. Y'all have any questions for me?
Quick question as far as the Westgate commercial space. Is there any early indicators from them in terms of the type of interest that they're getting in that space for leasing out those facilities?
Sure, yeah. We've had some anecdotal commercial conversations with them. So this guy is relatively local. He built the self-storage that's next door, but he also owns a small flex space building in the Innovation Park where he's got a range of tenants in that building. When we met with him probably 6 or 7 months ago, he was doing some of that analysis to see. One thing that he was getting a lot of calls on was actually for hair salons. That there were not, there really wasn't a product in our area for that. A lot of people were still driving into the Wilmington market or going south to go to there, to a Solo or whatever it might be. It's funny, I was thinking during the Canvasback conversation, my wife was a hairstylist years and years ago, and she used to work at a salon in the Forum, and so her and a couple of the people that worked there kind of spun out and opened up their own business. And when they were looking for a location, she found one downtown, and the guy that built this essentially hairstylist incubator had bought it for tech companies, and he kind of put it out there and didn't really get much traction, but he kept getting calls from hairstylists that were looking for a space, and it kind of worked out. And so it ended up having, I think, maybe 7 hairstylists, a physical fitness person or physical therapy person, a tattoo artist, and a few other people in there. And so the market kind of tells you what works for your space. So he's open to a range of different users. I do know in particular he is trying to target a restaurant user in that space, but the retail component, he's open. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's all I have on that item.
Exciting to see continued growth in the area. That's exciting. Mr. Sutton, item 8, old and new business. You will now present the old and new business items.
Yes. Yeah, and I kind of wanted to open it up for a conversation on a couple of these. I mentioned to you all probably last month that the North Carolina Ports Cold Chain Summit was coming up. Mr. Bolliard and I were in attendance. Some of you were as well. So I just wanted to share kind of some of the thoughts, but also open it up to you all to see if you had any thoughts from it. The whole point of the summit is to talk about not only the opportunities and the challenges that the port has experienced and their growth over the last decade and a half or so, and kind of where they're positioning themselves for their 2031 plan, but really how this is interconnected North Carolina to the greater global economy and how that relates to the transportation of whether it be agricultural goods or pharmaceuticals or different markets that they're looking into growing into, how different regulatory changes have impacted their business, how that's affected the call lines going to their Asian markets as opposed to the increase in their what they were calling their north-south line for trade, in particular with pineapples and bananas with South America. But it was really great to hear the perspective of not just the port, but other business that are integrated horizontally and vertically with the port, and how that impacts the rail, which is primarily why we were interested, as the rail line does come through Leland, and particularly the Queen Express line that runs through Leland. And so looking at ways that we could be better integrated with those projects, how we can kind of stay in touch with what the port's looking to do, but then also the business that's associated with that infrastructure. So I wanted to also open the floor if any of you attended the summit, and to share any thoughts that you might have had.
I think I was the only one from the group that attended, but to echo your comments, it's a great event, and it was really interesting from the standpoint of the kind of the steamboat lines and their realignment and what they're doing. But then there was a really interesting case study that took place, and that was a very interesting kind of telling story. It was around perishable produce, and what they were talking about was the kind of the crawl, walk, run strategy of being able to, it was around grapes, and being able to move product in through the Port of Wilmington, fully understanding the cold chain capabilities within inside of the Port of Wilmington. And then they utilized a large space, actually a Maersk facility out on 421, to hold the product. And what they were able to do is the actual shipper, so the product owner, which would be the grape company, was able to have visibility into the process, and then the pick pack out part of that process as well. And then the steamboat provider, so Maersk, was able to provide visibility from that as well. And the efficiency of the port really spoke volumes to the audience of, although it's further up in the river versus, some of the other larger ports that are directly off of the ocean and then inside of a bay type of an area, the speed of the offload, the visibility of the product, maintaining cold chain throughout the process, and then the ability to distribute on the East Coast from an over-road perspective was a real eye-opener for a lot of attendees. So I think having that asset, the most efficient port in North America, and I think it's number like 40 in the globe, from an efficiency perspective, having that within 15 minutes of our location here is a huge benefit. And I think we really should continue to utilize that as an asset to market, to draw, whether it's the flex or the bay space, small bay space, or even that mid-size to large Class A industrial for a distribution hub, whether it's an inbound product or whether it's an exportation type of a scenario. But yeah, overall, great event.
So far, it's been a free event. They might change that at some point when they move to a bigger venue, but always encourage you all to go if you're interested. The next item that I also wanted to have a discussion about was kind of recapping the special meeting that we had with Visit NC. Thought it was really cool to have all of the boards together and kind of have that deliberation on how the state is positioning tourism as a part of their greater economy and what that means for us. So I kind of wanted to start with you guys this time and kind of maybe let you share your thoughts about how you thought the meeting went, what you took away from it, and maybe what we could build on from that.
That's right.
I wish I had my notes in front of me, but I know I walked away very inspired, and I've thought a lot about Leland as a destination and a brand, and how to tell our story better as us, but also as a greater region. And so I feel like maybe it's just me, but maybe we could do a better job in seeing ourselves as a region, as the people that come here see us. And so, you can come to Leland and you can go to Southport and, go to the waterfront, and you can come to Leland and you can go to Wrightsville Beach, and you can come to Leland and you can go to downtown Wilmington, just like we do as citizens, right? We kind of travel around, and being able to tell like that bigger regional story. That's one of the things that I really took away, of like how to market the region in a bigger way.
I will absolutely echo that, simply because a lot of folks are moving to this area because it's just outside of Wilmington, has close proximity to beaches, area beaches, whether they're in Brunswick County or they're in New Hanover. It has close proximity to areas like Southport and even to Oak Isle and other areas that are deeper in the county itself. So I think an awesome takeaway would be to figure out how can we work best with our neighboring city and our neighboring counties to really highlight, to your point, our regional brand and what that means. We have tremendous industry that's growing over in Wilmington, and we have a lot of folks moving here for across a number of reasons to Leland and the broader Brunswick County. How can we really establish that relationship deeper between ourselves and New Hanover and Wilmington?
Yeah, I, in an effort not to be repetitive, but I echo both sentiments and comments. I think the thing that I took away from it was there has to be a clear identity, I think, of who and what Leland is as far as what is there from the standpoint from a tourism perspective, because I think if you look at it from a pure anecdotal standpoint, but also from the point that Ms. McWhorter had brought up, it's really a home base to be able to go to other locations. So, you know, really emphasizing on where we are in proximity to a lot of those other attractions, whether it's the Battleship, whether it's the Brunswick County beaches, whether it's the nature park and trails that are very close by that may not be directly in the county, but utilizing from an economic development perspective the ability to have hotel stays, so we can market the hotel stays, utilization of the restaurants and all the other services and shops, and then focus in on those 2 to 3 core things that are within inside of Leland from the standpoint of, you know, whether it's Founders Park or whether it's, you know, the new amphitheater here at Founders Park, or then taking and creating an effort of whether it's the, you know, the festival of trees and the you know, the holiday Christmas lights out here in the park, and building upon the things that are already working, and then getting traction and momentum around those and making the destination out of what we already have going, and then just putting additional resources into the things that are already successful to create a further broader reach.
If I could also add that another thing that I've thought a lot about, and my husband had to hear a lot about, because it really like sparked something in me, and I've thought a lot about that meeting. We happened to go to the Pickle Festival.
Right in Mount Olive, right?
Right in Mount Olive, which had been a goal of mine for many years, and so we made the time. But 60,000 people go to the Pickle Festival, and you eat a variety of pickle things, and there's pickle eating contests, et cetera, et cetera. So this is an advertisement about that. But so driving up and back, it's a bit of a drive. I was talking about what could that be for Leland, because it was a ton of fun, and people love to do that stuff. You know, pickle cotton candy, pickle whatever, you know, and so what would that look like for Leland? Where would it be held? And then the 5K race and on top, and I love the idea of the races also that we were talking about in the meeting and in that special meeting. So I think that the people that live here want all that. And then people that come here would come in also from Wilmington to enjoy that, because our region really desires things like that.
Yeah.
If I may add one more thing that actually made me think of is, since that meeting, I attended a Corvette festival that was held over at the Jeff Gordon Chevrolet in Wilmington, and I know they have the Under the Lights car show here in the parking lot of Lowe's Foods and some of the shops that are in the villages of Brunswick Forest, and having just overall events and really promoting those events and innovating boldly, dare I say it from my company, one of the company's monikers, innovating boldly around holding those events and driving the community brand, if that's where Leland wants to take the direction of its brand identity.
Yeah. No, I think those are all really great points, and I think some of those things we are actively testing. You know, we're trying to use some of our community-based events as economic generators of their own. It's one of those things that's really tough. And when I talk to some people about my role with the town, and then sometimes they ask me what's the overlap between Parks and Recreation and economic development. And it's especially difficult because sometimes when you think from an economic perspective, Parks and Recreation is one of those things that's a greater good, and almost always is never going to be a generator of income unless you have some type of profit aspect, like a venue or something. And so part of what we're trying to look at is how we can leverage community-based activity to be a catalyst for people to draw to the area. I mean, I think one thing that Wilmington in particular should be commended for is that when they did their Wilmington 2020 vision for how the north end of their downtown would look, they were very specific about what they wanted that to be. They were very intentional about not just taking any type of investment, but really creating something that drew people to that area. It's great to reach a critical mass with your residential perspective, but if you don't have anything that's bringing people in, you're solely reliant upon the people that live in that area. And for us, I think, yes, we do have a growing population that's becoming more and more diversified in terms of where they are in life or in their careers. But I think being able to also leverage the traffic coming through Highway 17 up and down the Carolina coast, but also the U.S. coast, but then also people that are coming from all over and people who's visiting family from your Ohios, your New Jerseys, your Virginia, and out west. We've seen that draw. And so we're trying to start actually being a little bit more proactive in that. I think this particular meeting was encouraging to see that a lot of the things that they recommended and that you guys are echoing now, we're starting to chart down that path. I think a big thing for us is going to be how we market ourselves. I think it's going to be a really big piece of it because not all marketing applies to everyone. I mean, sometimes you have a really great campaign that kind of lands with your broader audience, but I think also identifying those niche markets of people we want to attract that we might have just started to get to, ironing out what that is. So that's all I'll say on that, because I was also really enthused by that particular presentation, so I was glad that you all were engaged in that and could be there.
I think, if I may add, I think this was more of just an observation of, I was surprised, but pleasantly surprised. I had no idea. And I think we had a presentation, I think, during our last meeting, and then there was a follow-up about it during this NC and out, the whole disc golf thing. Mm-hmm. Like the sheer amount of people that are involved in that and the amount of people that are drawn in for something like that. Right. That was a little eye-opening because I had no idea that it was as cottage of a, sizable cottage of a industry or sport that it really is.
Yeah.
There maybe there's some opportunity there to add some additional kind of catalyst behind that, and it's already happening. Yeah.
Yeah, we had done a little bit of research. The main company that does a lot of the disc golf statistics, called UDisc, put out a 2026 list of top courses in the world, and so you kind of can filter that down. And we went to top 10 courses in the state, and I want to say there wasn't anything west of 95 in the top 10. It was very much so concentrated in the mountains area. The number one in the state is actually in Cary. It's called Diavolo. But outside of that, they're all in the western part of the state. And so I think as far as attracting tournament play, in terms of investment in a high-end tournament-style course, there's certainly an opportunity on this side of the state to make an impact. So.
Can I ask what the overlap, I don't know how close I should get to this, what the overlap is between like Parks and Recreation and then like the communications and then like the marketing, like the tourist and tourism efforts that the town of Leland have in place to support that now?
Yeah.
Or is that what we're like looking at?
Yeah, so a little bit of both. Like you all are a committee, we also have an entirely separate committee for tourism development, so Tourism Development Authority, and the staff that works on that is a culmination of myself, people from our communications team, from our parks team, from our finance team, and so all of us are kind of approaching the TDA as if it's a small version of a town. So all the functions that we have with the town, we also administer for the TDA. And a part of that, the TDA doesn't own any of these assets, right? So it's just specifically advertising what's in our area. It doesn't own land, it doesn't run these businesses, but all of these things are here. So one thing that I had mentioned before was that, say, in talking to trying to attract employers to this area, quality of life has moved high up on their on their ranking list for what attracts them to an area for themselves, but then also in terms of being able to retain employees. So they're looking at, are there quality parks? Are there good schools? Are there things for them to do? Go to the beaches, go to downtown, those type of things. But then we're also seeing that from a residential perspective. Leland has kind of gained this reputation for a lot of our planned developments as being highly amenitized. And so people are coming to this area knowing that they're going to have within their community or not far from it access to high quality parks, having the Cultural Arts Center or different venues like the Founders Park. And so trying to think about all of these things as it relates to not just benefits of the residents, but how that can be visited by people from outside of our market. So one of the things that we've thought about with, I don't even know if I've talked to you guys about the July 31st reopening of Founders Park, but essentially that's going to be a town event, but we've put ourselves in a position to partner with WCT to bring their Sounds of Summer concert to the park. And so they did that for 25 years at Wrightsville. And so they're bringing a special edition of Sounds of Summer here for July 31st. And then our goal is to kind of nurture that relationship and bring their series to us full time, starting in 27. And so that then becomes something that appeals to their whole 5-county market, well outside of Brunswick. And then how do we grow upon that? Because you're not going to necessarily see someone in Ohio in the WCT market, but I can guarantee there's some people from Ohio that have moved here quite recently, and they're going to come down here for Thanksgiving or for Christmas or whatever it might be. And so capitalizing not just in the summer seasons like your Wilmington and beach communities, but supporting our softer shoulders like with our winter Leland and Lights or our fall festivals for those soft shoulders to kind of smooth out that visitation throughout the year. So it's all very interconnected. We're still very early in how we're trying to best position ourselves for that, but we're at least looking in that direction.
What's the status? Sorry. What's the status of the Rice Festival? Just any update on that? Because I know at one time there was a dinner that was hosted at the Cultural Arts Center, and there was Leland played a part in hosting that, and people were coming in. So what's the update on that?
Yeah, so they've still been going, obviously, with the construction of Founders Park. They've done the last 3 years, I think, at Fort Anderson down at Brunswick Town. They did give a report to our council a few months ago, maybe in April, actually. They said they had 5,000 people come to their event this past year. We would obviously love to have them back here at Founders. I know that they've maybe gotten comfortable at that location, and so maybe that might be something where they stay there. We're not entirely sure, but we have had conversations with them about consistently having programming up in this area. One of the things they added this year, they did not do the gala at the Arts Center, but what they did do was they worked with Brunswick Beer and Cider to have a gala-inspired menu. And so Brunswick Beer and Cider also does the Rice Gold Lager that's kind of in conjunction with the Rice Festival, to kind of in memory of the rice that was grown in this area, the Carolina Gold. But then also we had conversations with them about, again, exploring that outdoor recreation component. So having guided historic tours through the marshes, say on Sturgeon Creek, where on aerial imagery you can still see the rice dikes that were hand cut through the marshes that are still there. And so being able to leverage, say, our investment in Sturgeon Creek Park or Cypress Park to incorporate that ecotourism perspective. So now you have tasting trails, you have kayaking trails, you have the festival. And so trying to, again, tie into all these different pieces that culminate in the festival on that Saturday. Would love to have them back. Maybe they will. But I do know that the last 3 years they've been at Brunswick Town.
Do they have any stats on the 5,000? If they're, day drive in or any overnight stats? I mean, do they have that granular data?
I'm not sure if they are keeping up with that. I'm sure it wouldn't take me long to pull it up through our software to see. I do know that it's been spotty on that particular part of the county. Obviously, if anyone's familiar with the geography of Brunswick County, there's some sensitivities on the southeast corner down there. And so I think there's some issues with retrieving data. What they've counted on site, with it being a state historic property, is obviously they have the trip counters that are there on the property. And so that's where they've got their numbers from. But we've had a good relationship with our hotel operators, and they might be able to share us at an aggregate level what the impact is.
Spike during that
Mhm.
weekend
Yep,
or something.
exactly,
Yeah.
and where they're booking from. They usually pull that from their credit card data.
I have a separate question. I'm curious what the town's thoughts have been on around organizing community events centered on like big yearly holidays. We think of Christmas time, lights festivals, the opportunity to exercise something like that, as opposed to where Airly gets booked up every year. Even opportunities here for the 250th anniversary on the 4th of July. I'm curious if there's anything in the works there and ideas that the town has had in terms of opportunities.
Yes, so the main one that we do now is Christmas. So we've done our grand illumination historically first Saturday of December. We're looking at expanding that window to maybe capture more of the holiday season. Some people feel like Christmas starts at the Macy Day Parade, so it depends on who you are and how your family is. But that has historically been our main holiday that we've programmed around. So typically we've done several events at the Arts Center. We're bringing some of those programs here and expanding those programs here throughout late November into all of December to the first Saturday in January, where we have been able to track some of that data and people that have come to this area visiting family during the holidays. For other holidays such as, two-part answer, July 4th, Easter, and Halloween, we see spikes in visitation from an out-of-market consumer. I feel as if that's a lot of people coming to visit mom and dad that live in this area, specifically around Easter and Halloween time. The 4th of July, we actually get a spike around the 2nd and 3rd, kind of dips down around the 4th. I think a lot of people kind of like to go out to the beaches, Masonboro, and all that kind of stuff. And then another spike around the 5th. So we do see an influx of people coming into our community around those holidays, which then presents itself to be an opportunity for us, which I think is where that Sounds of Summer series could really play a role. What we're trying to do is us not be in the driver's seat of every event, because that then puts our park staff kind of at full capacity in not only planning our own programs, but then also these community-based events. And so working with, say, the Chamber of Commerce, or different community groups that might want to put on something around those times. And we're working on a policy now, the special event policy, that will allow them to utilize town facilities to organize their events. We'll provide the space, they provide the programming.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, so the last two things being the NCEDA conference, just to put it on you all's radar. This is their annual conference from the North Carolina Economic Development Association. They do their annual conference every year in Wilmington. This will be June 17th, I believe, 17th through the 19th. Really great conference. Just wanted to put that on you all's calendar. And then the last one being the North Brunswick Chamber of Commerce Awards Ceremony. Do you have the date for that? June 23rd for that. Really great event. I will say, I think it was either last year, maybe the year before, Mimi and Papa's Popcorn. They were awarded as the Small Business of the Year. And so great to see a Leland business win that, and they're also in our gateway, our downtown area. And so just putting that on your calendars as well.
Where are the locations for both of those events?
The Chamber Award Ceremony, I believe, is at the Leland Cultural Arts Center, and the NCEDA conference is at the Convention Center in Wilmington.
I'm sorry, one last question. How do we gain attendance to those events?
I'll start with the NCEDA one. That is open for registration now. Okay. So go to NCEDA and find their conferences page. You can click there and register. They have prices for members, non-members, and a few other options in there for anyone to sign up. And all of their activities are also listed there for people to register for. And then, Mr. Galanka, do you have any details on the award ceremony in terms of attendance or how we would like to approach that?
I do not at this time, but we can definitely send them something.
Okay, yeah, so we'll work on getting some details for the ceremony, for attending that.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you all.
And we have a new item, item 8.5, Miss McWhorter.
Also on next week, Thursday, May 21st at 6 o'clock, at the UNCW Burney Center, we have our Region's Coastal Entrepreneur Awards. That's a multi-month process where we go out. That's a joint partnership between the UNCW Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship and the Greater Wilmington Business Journal. We go out for a call for the best entrepreneurs and businesses in a variety of areas such as logistics. Frontier Scientific was our overall award winner last year, such as emerging business. I know Vantica won a prize at some point. I don't remember what award they won, such as retail, minority business of the year. And so the 11 top category winners will be celebrated on Thursday next week. And then at that celebration, the overall award winner will be announced. And so also the chambers also announce their award winners. So please do come out and celebrate if you can. If you just Google that, your tickets are still available, and those are purchased through the Business Journal. It's a ton of fun.
It's always a fun evening for sure. Item number 9.1, staff reports. Staff reports are available in your online agenda packet. And if there is nothing else to add for the benefit of the committee or the meeting, do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The next meeting will be on June the 11th. I was getting a month ahead of myself. June 11th at 6 p.m. here at Town Hall. Thank you all for attending.
Thank you.
Thank you.